Armed stalker. I was in college when this happened, but I was staying at my parents' house for the summer. I met this guy at a party that I went to with a friend. We were talking and having fun, and later on we exchanged phone numbers. We hung out a couple of times, but he quickly became very clingy, so I decided to distance myself. But he didn't get the hint. He sent me over hundreds of messages, with each message becoming increasingly more aggressive as time went on. I finally told him that he needed to chill out. He calmed down a bit, but then immediately asked for a phone call. I agreed, which I now know was a mistake. He told me that he couldn't stop thinking about me, and that I was the best thing that had ever happened to him, even though we had only known each other for 2 weeks. I tried to let him down gently, reminding him that I was only home for this summer and wasn't looking for anything serious, but this only made him angrier. He started yelling at me and insulting me. Suddenly, he went quiet. After a pause, he said, "You better get ready, because I'm coming for you." And then he hung up. I was terrified. My parents were out of town and I was alone at their house. I didn't think he could figure out where I lived, but I locked all the doors before falling asleep, just in case. Hours later, I woke up to a notification from the Ring app, telling me that the front door camera had detected movement. It was him. The video clearly showed him walking up to the front door with a gun in his hand, but he leaves as soon as he notices the camera. I have no idea what he had planned, but it still sends shivers down my spine to think that he had come over when he knew I would be asleep and vulnerable. As I would later find out, he was able to get my address from my phone number. Apparently, a simple reverse Google search on my phone number was enough for him to get my address, my parents' names, and other information that I would rather keep private. He hasn't harassed me since then, but I still can't sleep at night. Tunnel Man. My husband and I own an antique business in a 5-store renovated barn. There's several other tenants in the building, including a little restaurant. On Halloween night, we locked up our shop at 5 p.m., and we went to an early dinner across town. At around 6:30, we got a notification saying that our security system had detected motion in the building. We assumed it might have been a rat, but we still left in a hurry to make sure everything was okay. As soon as we got there, I made my way inside to disarm the alarm, fumbling noisily with the keys. My husband checked the perimeter outside for signs of a break-in, but the windows and doors seemed intact. It was already dark when I headed down to where the alarm had gone off, and because I'm used to walking around the building after dark, I just turned my phone light on as I scanned the room for anything suspicious. I didn't see anything weird at first, but I suddenly froze as my eyes caught a glimpse of something shiny in the middle of the room. It was a burglary kit, bolt cutters, and a fire extinguisher. A wave of sheer terror washed over me. There were no broken windows or doors, which meant the intruder was still there in the dark with me. I tried to scream, but my voice was stuck in my throat. A few seconds later, my husband wondered why I was standing in the same place and walked over to me. His eyes widened in terror as he saw what I was pointing at. We bolted out the front door and called 911. A few minutes later, the police showed up and were initially unimpressed with the bolt cutter and fire extinguisher. But then we pulled up the security footage and found this. The man had crouched on a landing behind a bookcase when we closed and watched me and my staff lock up. As soon as we left, he walked out and went to the men's bathroom downstairs. Disturbingly, he made this mask using materials he found in our shop, including a fake flower wreath. At first, he looked right into the camera, bare-faced, before putting the mask on and staring into it for a long time. Strangely, he then stacked a few suitcases in front of a tall iron gate and hopped over it from one side to the other multiple times without taking anything with him. It was at that point that he heard me fumbling with keys upstairs. He ditched the stolen keys and hid, watching me while he waited in the dark. When we ran outside to call 911, he ran back into the basement. In the basement, there's an access to a dirt tunnel that circles the entire building, which he immediately went into. Little did he know that in this dank, muddy tunnel was full of spiders the size of dinner plates. There's a tiny exit hatch at the end of the tunnel that throws you into the busy kitchen of the restaurant, where he would have been seen if he had walked out of the tunnel. With the police, my husband and I found his footprints leading into the tunnel, but there was no sign that he had walked out into the restaurant kitchen. At this point, even the police officers were freaked out. There was no other way he could have made it out of the tunnel, but there was no muddy footprints in the restaurant, and the cameras showed that he never walked into the restaurant. Our only option was to walk through the dirt tunnel to see if he was there, but the police officers decided it was unsafe, and we ended up boarding up both ends of the tunnel. Police never identified the man who broke in, and since there was no suspicious smells coming from the tunnel in the months following the incident, the only possibility is that the man somehow walked into the restaurant without leaving any muddy footprints, and then perfectly avoided the cameras and the kitchen staff as he made his way outside. But we still have no idea how that's even possible. Approached by a frantic woman. When I was 19, my parents and I packed up our U-Haul and made the drive up to our new home north from our small apartment in Florida. I was excited about going to college, and I was more than ready for the move. On the first night of our drive, we stopped at a shady hotel next to a closed-down gas station with graffiti all over the walls. We were all nervous as the door to our room didn't even close all the way. We had to barricade the door with chairs to feel safe, and I was glad when we left the next day. The second night, we stopped in a small town in North Carolina. We booked a room in a hotel, and after loading our essentials onto a little cart, we grabbed our 2 cats and approached the side door of the hotel. As soon as we opened the door, we heard a woman screaming and running towards us. Her voice was frantic. The panic in her voice still gives me chills when I think about it. She wore a dark blue jacket, and her face looked like she hadn't slept in a long time. She kept screaming the words, "Call 911. There's something wrong with that baby." But there was no kids in sight. I thought that maybe there was a kid near the front of the building that was seriously hurt, or that maybe there had been a car accident. My mom told her she didn't have her phone on her, so I offered her mine. But the moment I took it out of my pocket, my dad snatched it out of my hand. The lady then said, "It's really bad. You need to come and see." My mom told her that she should go to the front desk of the hotel and get help. The lady kept screaming, "No, I don't need their help. I need your help." But my mom pushed us all inside the hotel lobby. At this point, my cat was clawing at her pet carrier, just trying to get out. The lady took one look at him and reached for him, saying, "Yeah, let's get the babies inside," in the creepiest voice I've ever heard. She sounded like she was on drugs or something. I grabbed my cat before she could touch him, and we led her to the front desk where she told the hotel worker the same story she told us. While the lady was distracted, my parents and I got in the elevator. I took one last look at the lobby, and I saw the woman staring at us, her eyes full of anger now. She then started charging at us, and before I even had a chance to react, my mom pushed me into the elevator. I could see the woman still running towards us as the elevator was closing. I remember the small screen in the lobby showing which floor the elevator was headed to, so we pushed all the buttons to confuse the crazy lady. After the 5th floor, we pressed the button back to our floor. and piled into the room. We got up around sunrise and decided to get to our new home before nightfall. No more hotel stops. At the checkout, the same employee from the previous night was there, and we asked her what happened after we got into the elevator. She said that when the lady turned to go after us, she saw a syringe in the lady's back pocket. I still get shivers down my spine thinking about what could have happened that night.